Hi, I'm Dr. Tamar Chansky, and today we're talking about how to help kids, how parents and teachers can help kids with social anxiety. As many as 5% of kids can have social anxiety, and there's several things that you can do. I really want to highlight just a couple very effective strategies in our talk today, because as we know, kids with social anxiety, as the same as adults, feel very uncomfortable in any kind of social situation. Feel like they freeze up because they feel that they're being judged, that they're going to embarrass themselves. It feels like an impossible situation, and because of that, kids avoid social situations. They avoid eye contact, and it's really just the message that their brain is telling them about that situation makes it very hard for them to take risks there. So, as with all anxiety, what is our technique? The strategy is really to shrink the fear down to size. It's very exaggerated, the risk. That's a no-fault thing, but shrink the fear down and approach the situation one step at a time. So with kids with social anxiety, what happens is, so we help them to identify their fears and fact check them, boss back what worries telling them about the situation. But in terms of the approach, how they can approach a situation, often what happens is that inadvertently the social anxiety gets reinforced because conversations that kids are, I won't say part of, because that's the point, they're not part of it, that they're standing next to, often feel like at a higher level than what they are ready to do exposure-wise. It's too challenging to have it may be for a child too challenging to have a conversation, and so there they stand, a conversation happening around them, maybe someone asks them a question, they freeze up. It's a reinforcement of their worst fear, and then they want to avoid social situations even more the next time. Okay, what can we do about that? So what I recommend for parents is to break down, think in parts and think about this idea of sharing the job in a conversation with your child. And you're going to do that in steps. Over time, your child will get more comfortable with one step, the nonverbal steps, and then into one-word answers, a couple word answers, and then more. So let me explain what I mean by that. So let's say you're at you run into a neighbor when you're walking through your neighborhood, and your child is with you, and the neighbor is excited to see you and saying hello and asking questions to your child. What grade are you in? Are you having a good summer? Just all these questions. And meanwhile, your child just literally deer in the headlights, feels like there's nothing they can do. Help them, do an assist to break down what's going on into a question by your sort of being the middle person, restating part of that person's question to your child and making it into a chunk that they can at first just nod their head to. Again, when they're more confident with that, more comfortable, they can say a yes/no answer. So you might say, turn to your child in that situation and say, we're having a pretty good summer, aren't we? And your child can nod their head. Yes. Suddenly, that might be a first time that they actually feel like they're part of a conversation. You have adjusted what what communication is to the place that your child is ready to do. So a few times, many times of doing that in a conversation where it's sort of, you take the big thing, you narrow it down into a question that your child can, with their with their eyes or with their, nodding their head, that they can be part of what the action is. Next step with that is that you might say, well, yeah, the person asks a question about, where they're going to go on vacation or something, and you say, well, we wanted to go to the shore this summer, right? We like to do that. Yeah, should we, the shore? And it may be that your child, either they can say yes or no, they would go beyond the step. This could be days later, weeks later, months later, than the nonverbal way that they're participating in a conversation. It doesn't matter how fast it happens. If they're working on it, they're making progress. So you would narrow down the conversation into something that they could say yes or no to, or the shore or the zoo, and they choose. And you proceed that way, that you're kind of, it's like, this might sound weird. This is the way I think. For children, we cut up their food into manageable bites, right? That's, and we don't do that forever, but if we don't do that in the beginning, it doesn't work. So with social anxiety, that's, an important thing to do, is sort of cut down the conversation into manageable bites for them. So I hope that odd analogy makes sense for you and for your child. So one way of working on this is in conversation. Another great place to work on reducing social fears with kids is to go to a restaurant, go out for ice cream, and again, use that model of sharing the job with your child. Break it down into what they're ready to do. So let's say you go to an ice cream shop. It's amazing how many questions there are in an ice cream shop. I, experience this on a regular basis, going out and doing exposure sessions with the kids that I treat. But, what's the flavor? What kind of cone or in a cup? So the great thing about that is if you're there with your child, that, in the car on the way over, they've told you what they want. So when the person asks what they want, you can say, turn to your child again, rather than having the conversation loop go, omit them. You're including them in the way that they're ready to do. So you say, you wanted to have chocolate, right? And they nod their head. Or if they're, a little bit further along in the process, they say yes. Or they might be ready to say chocolate. Again, what kind of cone? You want the sugar cone? Mm-hmm. Okay. Next, they could hand the money, to the clerk. That would be another way of participating. So you see that while normally that situation would be where a child can't do the whole thing themselves, it often turns out that either another sibling does the whole thing for them, or the parent just orders and takes care of it. But when we approach it this way, there is a job that your child can do, which will build confidence that they're able to have an impact in their life, especially for great things like ice cream. But more and more as you practice those experiences, they see that they can have an effect, they can say things, they can be, effective in their lives. People respond to them, people smile. That can feel good eventually. So that's really important. And just one last idea. So break it down, cut down the food of the conversation into manageable bites. That is the take-home message there. But the other really important thing is, if someone is saying, try not to refer to your child as shy. Shy feels like a box. They're shy, that's it. There's nothing they can do about it. If someone says, oh, is your child shy, or something like that, help them out and say, oh, they just need some time to warm up. That gives the positive expectation that your child can communicate, in some way. Again, nonverbal communication is a great percentage, the majority of our communication is nonverbal, so communicating nonverbally, great start. But that lets your child know that there's room, the door is open for them to be part of life, shared life with other people. And it will help them to internalize a different sense of themselves as capable. So make sure that without making a big deal, correcting anybody, just again, make room for your child to have that time to warm up. Oh, just, a little bit of time. Don't we all need that? Really just kind of smooth out the waters of that. And your child will really appreciate that and will be able to, with your understanding of where they are, they will really be able to make progress. So thank you so much for listening today. For more ideas like this, please go to tamarchansky.com. I have some books for parents on my website that go into even more depth about how to free your child from anxiety. So here's to less worry all around.